I've always just lived and died by the mantra of I'm just me. You have to be mentally strong to endure what I endured to get to where I'm at. I think I'm one of the last guys really on the indies who I'm the perfect blend of every style. Every time you're making a decision about what happens to Melo, call me, my name on him. And we wrestled all over the world for 3 years straight. I just want to be recognized as one of the best wrestlers in the world.
The first thing was the promo you did. It was like quick as Stardust, where you just said, say my name.
And a lot of my opportunities in wrestling came because I'm just not going to be quiet. Said, hey, we have the opportunity to bring Cody Rhodes in, and you're the only person to wrestle him. I needed to up the ante. He pulled me aside and had that conversation with me where it's like, hey, man, I'm not sure if you know what's going on, but nobody likes you.
Welcome one and welcome all. Hosted by none other than Coach C. Chris Sanders, you're tuning into the Character to Canvas podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 5 of the Character to Canvas podcast. Now, when I think creativity, it was only a matter of time for this episode to happen. JT Dunn, welcome. Thank you very much for doing this.
I appreciate you having me, Chris. Thanks.
All right, so now let's get started right away. So growing up, I remember you saying you played football, and I know you said in high school, but growing up, was your passion football or was it wrestling? And like, when was it time to like really make that choice on what you wanted to do for a career?
So growing up, it was definitely football. That was the only thing I saw myself doing. I played youth football, into high school football, into college football. I thought that was going to be it. Wrestling really was just a hobby for me for a little bit. In high school, right around my sophomore year, I had a buddy, Matt, who we just kind of sat down one day and talked about our love for wrestling in a weird way. I was very closeted about it as he was. Wrestling wasn't as cool as it is now, or during the Attitude Era, during the time I was in school. So we didn't really talk about it. And we played football, so we didn't want to lose any of those cool points. So one day at our free breakfast, it was right around the time when Edge cashed in Money in the Bank on John Cena in the Elimination Chamber or post-Elimination Chamber. It was like the next Monday we were talking about it, and it was kind of like that, hey, did we just become best friends moment where
Wow.
I realized he loved wrestling. I was falling in love with wrestling at that time, thankfully because of my little sister. My sister was a huge wrestling fan, big John Cena fan. I had people in my friend group in my family that liked wrestling. It wasn't really my thing. We watched pay-per-views and stuff together, but mainly my responsibility was to babysit my sister. If she stayed up late for the pay-per-view or for SmackDown, which was like on a school night, I was responsible for her going to sleep, and then I had to get up in the morning to make sure she was ready for school. So that's where it became a thing for me to sit in the room with her, watch SmackDown, watch John Cena, The Rock, all that stuff. And I realized, like, damn, this is actually kind of cool. And then we did like every teenage guy, our backyard wrestling days. So we got to Matt's house, threw the mattress down, got a Land of Misfit Toys brewing. A bunch of kids from different backyard feds joined us, and it came to our culmination in our senior year where we had our big WrestleMania show. We sold tickets to Matt's house. A bunch of people came and hung out and watched us do dumb stuff to each other on the ground. And then we posted that match, Matt and I. Well, Matt did it. He was way more tech savvy than I. He bought the camcorder. We went down to the CVS down the street from his house and bought the cassette tapes that went in. He transferred it to his computer, edited it however he did, and he put it on YouTube. And YouTube was just starting to become popularized at that time. And I don't know why he posted it. It was awful, but we were better than all of our friends, and we wanted to show that. At that time, we were like watching wrestling and stuff on YouTube, trying to configure why people were doing certain things, why the headlock was on a certain side, why were they only grabbing the left arm when they were stepping or moving in certain ways, why would they do that? My brain has always been specific on detail, so I needed to learn that stuff. We didn't know why. But we put that match online, and somebody found it by the name of Justin, and that led us to Justin and Vinny Marseglia. And Matt went and started training with them in their backyard because they had a wrestling ring. I joined him shortly after that, and my ego kind of tricked me into being a pro wrestler because I was really bad, really like emphasis on really bad. And Matt was just an athlete. I mean, he was a great amateur wrestler. I did amateur wrestling so that we could hang out more. We were in the same weight class, so he always beat the crap out of me on the pads. Football was a little bit more dominant. That was my thing. So we were very competitive with each other, and that transferred over into pro wrestling. And like, man, like even leading into our first matches, he had like an awesome first match in front of like this packed house that I look back on now, and I'm a little like I'm jealous of that to a sense, because I got hurt in my first match on the last move, and I wrestled somebody who was just a bum, and Matt had excelled in the training. He was good at talking. He knew who he wanted to be. He was in great shape already from wrestling, and his dad was a football coach, so like they ran drills together. He was in it. I'm just this odd duck in the mix with him, but I wanted to be good at wrestling. I wanted to be good to compete with Matt, and our dream was to be like a tag team. We were in our backyard fed. We thought we could go do the indies and stuff and be a tag team. So that was the goal, to try to keep up with Matt at first.
What was yours or your backyard name?
So I remember trying to come up with my first like wrestling name. I didn't know how to do it. Like again, my education on wrestling was very slim. Whatever I couldn't find on YouTube or on VHS tapes or DVDs were becoming popular then. If it wasn't on there, I didn't know. So I didn't know these guys just made a name and made a brand, and that became them. So I remember sitting down with like Matt and Vinny, and there might have been a couple other people, but I was using Click Click Boom as my entrance song. They just thought like, hey, it's a cool song, this would be good for you. So the boom went with Dynamite, so they started calling me Johnny Dynamite, or then JT Dynamite. So that kind of stuck for a little bit. In the backyard days, it had to be something to do with probably like the Hurricane. I think there was like a last name Helms at one point. Probably something like that. Again, because we were just playing around. We weren't taking it seriously. We didn't know what it was going to turn into. And for me, which is a visualization of my career, it's a lot of emulation, things that I've liked, people I've respected. I've tried to just carbon copy what they did, but in a mold that fit me. So yeah, I remember Dynamite being a big thing, but it was like quickly I got away from that. Like I remember I got hurt in that first match, and I was like, all right, this is cursed already. I need to figure out what I am, who I am, and what my purpose is.
So to go with that, your first match, like other than the injury, if you can go back, like after everything you've learned over these years, like what would you tell yourself before that first match?
Find a school. I would have definitely used my resources to try to find a professional wrestling school. For all of the veterans in the area that watched me kind of grow from where I was to where I'm at, I think I'm the only person who could ever do it the way that I did it.
Wow.
There's just, you have to be mentally strong to endure what I endured to get to where I'm at. I didn't go to a school. I didn't have friends. I didn't make friends easily. I'm 100% like an outcast person. I like being by myself. I do my best work in my own brain away from everybody. But a lot for me was getting away from New England because I realized people didn't like me. And I started traveling with whatever car I possibly could get in. Some of them were good cars. Some of them were awful cars with awful people in them. But it got me to go to different areas and do seminars. So I'm 100% the product of investing in myself. When I was younger, I worked at like a Newport Creamery.
Wow.
And I took all of that money. I remember to go to like my first seminars because I was like 17 at first when I first started doing it. And I had to like sign my own permission slip thing to get into the seminar. My dad wouldn't sign it. He thought wrestling was stupid, or me doing wrestling was stupid. I needed to do a man sport like football and stay focused on that. And he wasn't going to pay for my college. So I had to use my brains and my athletics to get my scholarship because he wasn't doing it. So I forged my first slip to go and do seminars, and I'm very quizzical. I ask a lot of questions. So I think that benefited me and probably the people at the seminar. Like I remember the first year or so, I ended up with like 30, 40 notebooks filled with information. Like just every seminar, every room I was in, I'm just that little nerd in the corner taking notes. After every match, I would like run to the back. And this is also like part of that reason why people didn't like me. I didn't know the etiquette. I didn't know to come back and thank the person and appreciate the time we just shared. I'd run to the back and write down immediately what I thought was good, what got a good reaction, a couple of things I could work on, maybe the style of people that I was working, what I enjoyed about it, and then what I didn't enjoy. And some people took offense to that because they'd see me in my notebook and ask what I was doing. And I'm blunt. I'm telling like, oh, I didn't like this about you. But it's not like it wasn't them. It was like, hey, wrestling a high flyer, I realized I wasn't good at catching you, and I didn't like the way you jumped on me. So I'm just making notes so I could be better at it down the line. But being able to tell myself day one, find a school, learn the basics, it would have been a much easier journey. But also, I probably don't get to do all of the things that I got to do. It made me battle tested, and a lot of the things that I've seen that happen to me happen to other people. They unfortunately didn't make it through all of that. And for me, I worked hard and got lucky.
Wow. So with you, like you're one of the most creative people I think in wrestling, just seeing like the ideas you've had over the years and stuff like that. I know it's like kind of different, but like was there an inspiration or any inspiration you have to like the one, or like even when you did the juice, like I know I asked like Trip this and he told me like the Mafia inspired him, but like do you have like any inspiration? Like I know people are inspired by music, shows, movies, anything like that for you?
Yeah, I think it's honestly everything. I am a big people watcher. So I watch people, I listen in on conversations. Um, I sit around and just see what other people are doing at wrestling shows, during movies. My brain just works different where like I have to watch things multiple times because every time I watch a movie or a show, the first time I watch it through, my brain reads one thing, and then I watch it through again and I start picking everything apart. Why'd they do this? Why they act this way? Why'd they say this a certain way? The inflection in their voice, the raise in their eyebrow, the smirk, the smile, the frown. I do that it's so annoying, but I do that for everything in my whole life, and it's super annoying. It causes me high stress anxiety, but I think it's allowed me to reach a level of creativity I didn't know was inside of me. And for me, I think I'm more creative in terms of helping other people than myself. For me, I've always just lived and died by the mantra of I'm just me. I'm not a character. I'm not going to paint my face. I'm not going to be a cowboy. I'm not going to be anything that I'm not. But for other people who are looking for that information, there's so much inside of me that I've gathered over the years, and so much that I've just learned from other people where it doesn't all pertain to me. So when we sit down and have a conversation, I'm always breaking people apart and like, hey, try this. How about this? How about this? How about this? Because it's got to get out of me. If not, it's going to waste, and it's just eating me alive inside. So there's been way more benefit to my crazy brain for other people than I think for myself. And there's probably times like, and I'm sure in a couple of years, I'll look back and say, damn, I wish I would have been more creative for me. It could have changed a few things, but I'm happy with everything that I've got to do because most people don't get to do it with all of the benefits afforded to them. But I've been able to do it just by being me.
Yeah, and to go with that, like one of the things I don't really get to see because I'm a commentator, but I kind of sort of remember. Do you have like any pre-match like rituals or way you like really get locked in for a match, or like music or something you do?
Not really music. Some days, yeah. I'm very much like I need to just be by myself for a small portion of that time. being in the locker room, I think, especially the last couple of years, I've opened up a lot more. I've let a lot more people in to see the real me, to help just break down this conjecture of who JT Dunn is. And I think it's been beneficial, because I'm able to connect with many more people in ways that I haven't. But a lot of the time before a match, I need to just be by myself. I need to get my brain situated for the good, bad, and indifferent that could happen. I need to get plan A, B, C, D, E, and F ready just in case it doesn't go according to plan. I need to know, I need to go in my brain over who I'm wrestling or sharing the ring with, what I've seen in footage of them, what I've seen in conversation, what little tidbits have they given me, where if we need to ad lib, do more, do less, if a moment calls for something else, I have to have all of that stored in my brain. And I think I've earned a crazy reputation with everybody, I think, that I've wrestled, where they're just like, they're super relaxed knowing they get to wrestle me because I'm going to do all the work for them. I'm going to have all the ideas. I'm going to put the match together that benefits them the best way. But to get into that zone, I have to be at peace with myself in the back. I don't do well in high stress situations, people yelling and screaming and fighting with each other. Music doesn't bother me. I don't say prayers or anything like that, or slap myself in the face before I go out to the ring or anything. It's now I'm at the point where you and I could be having a conversation and my musical hit. I'll go out to the ring, do my thing, come back, and it's like it shuts back off, and then I'll go right back into that conversation with you. And it blows people's minds sometimes that I'm able to do that. I just have the utmost confidence in not really my body, but it's my brain doing the work for me. If you train this thing better than anything else, it'll never fail you.
Wow. And then to go with that, I don't know if I told you, the reason I started this podcast was for my freshman year of college, I took a performing arts class and we had to do like a final project. So I did a podcast and like it's catched on. But one of the things that we learned about in performing arts that catches a lot with wrestling could be improv. So have you ever had like a situation, whether like somebody got hurt in a match or maybe like you did something and the crowd didn't connect, or you did something not expecting the way the crowd reacted, that like improv has played like a major role in wrestling for you?
Yes, I would say that probably happens a lot more times than people realize. Another thing I think I subconsciously did when I was in high school is I took theater performing arts for 4 years. And I think that helped me in the essence of being able to interpret literature and characters, and be able to dissect signs, sounds, and the environment around me. I wasn't big into the getting on stage and acting portion, but I was big on the reading scripts in class and acting amongst my peers and having that type of background developed. I had no clue why I was doing it. At the time, I just knew I didn't play instruments. I couldn't draw. I was already taking literature and writing classes, which has always been a huge passion of mine. So to coincide with that, I figured, oh, well, acting will be cool. My school has a theater arts program, and it's like ranked amongst the best. We have a great teacher here, so I might as well like participate in that. It took me a little bit of, I would say probably about like 6 months to get like accustomed to being in there, because a lot of the kids that I was with, they've been doing this their whole life, like acting in theater. And it's like, here I come walking in with my varsity jacket and I look like a jerk. And in high school, obviously, people that did sports and act like me made fun of the kids that I was now with. But that was never for me. I was a blend between all of the worlds. And I think theater helped me get confidence in playing a character that I didn't know I was going to go play later on in life. And then in wrestling, just being able to train my brain. I think I've said it to you, and I've mentioned it a bunch of times around other wrestlers. Like, I'm protecting my brain at all costs. My brain is the most valuable asset that I have. I have a photographic memory, in the sense where remembering a match is easy for me. I can retain matches for years. I can call a match to you right now that I had 6 years ago. I think that's another thing that makes people comfortable in wrestling me. If things go wrong or they forget something, or you land and you get the wing knocked out of you, you hit your head, all of those things can cause sporadic emotions and you start panicking. I love being a person who can just keep everybody mellow and cool. I talk a lot in the ring, to my opponent, to my team, whatever it is. I'm constantly giving them an ego boost. Like if something goes well, and we're in a situation where I can communicate to them, hey man, great bump, great sell, you're doing awesome. More of whatever that was you just did to get that reaction, or hey, turn it down, like it's a little bit less. If I know we have to navigate a different way, or if I know where we're trying to get to and what we're doing isn't matching it, I'm able to communicate that with them. And I like to think that makes people just be at ease. I don't want anybody ever being nervous to wrestle me. I feel like if you earn the match with me and you get it, it should be exactly what you're looking for. Informative, that banger match that you want to have, but in a very safe and modernized way. I think I'm one of the last guys really on the indies who I'm the perfect blend of every style based on my upbringing, the people that have mentored me, and the training I'm constantly pursuing. I can do every version of wrestling, and it's just me as a whole. But now being able to teach that to people because I have control over it, I'm hoping to be able to spread that more through New England so we can get back to like that, the glory days of when we had all of those top name wrestlers here, the Eddie Edwards, the Mike Bennett's, the Champas, the Warbeards, the Furies, all of them, the Tavens, all of them were. Right now, I feel like we're in a thing where it's like there's three of us, and it's really hard to hold an area together, especially when you have men on top of the mountain screaming, "We're the best! We're the best! We're better than South Wrestling! We're better than West Coast, Canada, Mexico! We're the best here in New England." We just don't have that many people to back me up. So preparing everybody for that has been quite the challenge. So the rituals and all that stuff, it all plays a small part in letting people be cool and calm and collective around me, because you don't want anybody in the ring who's just like, I don't know what's going on. So if I give that persona and that vibe off of like, hey, we're going to be smooth here, and that's what I want for other people, them to give that same thing back.
And to go with all the names you mentioned, and even earlier some of the things you talked about, has there been like one person you felt you've learned so much from in the ring, or multiple people that have played factors? I know when I talked to Trip, he mentioned like he's learned a lot from you. But has there been somebody that, or a few people that you've learned a lot from?
Oh man, yeah, probably a lot more than I could remember right now. I mean, the glaring elephant in the room is Hero. Being able to travel and learn from him, it took everything that I knew already that I didn't know how to apply. Excuse me, that I didn't know how to apply. And it taught me functionality. It taught me purpose, the why. And it really showed me how to earn it. I had been given a lot of matches and earned a lot of matches going into my teaming with Hero. And a lot of that was just trial by fire, going out there and just like, not everybody is going to give to you before they can see what you do. Where it's like, for me, I've tried to be the opposite of that. I'm going to give. And in the ring, if you don't earn it, I'm going to take it back. Where I got to wrestle a lot of the top name guys, former TV stars or whatever. And they're like, oh, cool, I'm wrestling JT. But the vibe is just different. It's more of like they know who they are. And it's not until we get in the ring and I prove it to them that I am capable of doing all of this, do I get that reciprocation back. And the same was with Hero. I had to earn everything with him. I had to earn my ability to talk, to call the match and have my input selected. I had to earn the ability to get in the ring more during tag matches to prove to him that I was 50% of this team and I could hold up when he's standing on the apron, because that's the hardest part in tag wrestling, is standing on the apron and praying to God that nothing goes wrong and everything is on par. But yeah, man, he was a huge influence for me. But then guys like Paul London, I learned a lot from Paul. He was an early idol for me, just based on the things that he was able to do with his body to draw sympathy in Ring of Honor. I've been very outspoken about my love for Paul, and it was super cool to grow up and be able to wrestle him as many times as I have, and we continue to learn from each other. But he's definitely on that list. And then, I mean, I would say there's a little bit of something I learned from everybody, but I had a big feud with Martin Stone, which was pretty impactful for me, that allowed me to really focus on my wrestling, make the technical aspect of what I'm doing in the ring all have a purpose. And you have this like the synchronization of a match where everything just falls into place. And if you do something out of context, it doesn't blend with the rest of it. And him and I were really trying to push each other. I felt like, for me, not that I was being like unappreciated or overlooked or anything like that. It was just like, hey, I'm here. I've been doing this. Pay attention to me because I'm the best one you got. And for him, I think before he had left to go to WWE, he was kind of in the same like situation where he's a foreign talent here in the States. He's great at what he does. They kept picking different people to be what he could do. And I thought he was the best one that could do that style of wrestling, be this character, and really just bring it all together. So our matches together were awesome. I learned a lot in that feud. And what's nuts is like the first time we wrestled, we were just thrown together. It was like a Progress versus Beyond show. And they were just like, whatever, Dunn versus Stone, let them wrestle. And we went out there and just stole the show. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe they got to do more. And then different companies around the country started booking it. And we really started becoming friends at that time and really using each other as a resource. And I think that's always beneficial, is like learning in the match is great, talking before after the show is great, but when that bond supersedes wrestling and you talk outside of it during your real life phone calls, like FaceTime, going over stuff, or if he had a match that he had questions about that didn't even involve me, it's in a different country or whatever, he would call me and ask me like, hey, I'm thinking about this and this. I would do the same to him. Just to bounce ideas off of a trusted source is always great. And then again, like people like Dijak, with Christian, Carmelo Hayes, like, yeah, I was in a teaching role with Melo, but I learned so much from him because it allowed me to see, like, it was like seeing me, but with more opportunity. And I was able to get to him before wrestling hurt him, before anybody in wrestling tarnished all the hard work. Like, I jokingly tell this story, and I'll tell it here. And he's going to get so mad that I'm telling it. We used it in a promo, but this is a real story. So you're going to be the first person I've ever told this to where you can clip it and post it.
Oh, yeah.
So we did a chaotic wrestling show a bunch of years back. Christian was being pulled in, or should I call him? When I say Christian, I'm talking about Carmelo Hayes. He was Christian Casanova during my time. So with Melo, he was being pulled in different ways by people telling him what he should be doing, how he should be acting, these types of moves, these types of wrestling shows, this type of behavior. He happened to make a wrong decision. And a wrong decision is just one that I wouldn't have done in that situation. We don't need to go into detail about it, but it cost him a championship. And this is the politics of wrestling. Promoter came in, said, hey, this and this happened. We don't appreciate it. You're losing the belt today and you're fired. And I happened to be in the locker room. I overheard it. I saw the effect it took on him. I pulled him aside. We had a small conversation. I said, go out there, do business. When you get done, come back and talk to me. Goes in the ring, does business, conversation afterwards with somebody else. He gets let go. He's hot. Understandably, he is being told what he did was wrong, but nobody's explaining to him why. Why did nobody stop him? Why did nobody warn him or anything like that? So I went to him. I said, hey, man, like, I see something in you that is very rare. And I think that you have this it factor. You don't know what the hell you're doing with it. And it's not even fully developed yet. But if you trust me, I'm going to go have a conversation, and you're going to be a person I'm going to put my name on. And even at that time, I'm talking out of my ass. Like, I don't know what value I had to say this, but it just felt like the right thing to do. So we got him to calm down. He's with OG. They're talking. They leave the building. I pull the guy aside that's in charge of everything over in Chaotic. And I said, hey, man, what just happened is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen you guys do. You didn't help that kid. He's so young, and like, he's going to be the best guy your school ever produces. Let him be mine. Like, put me in story with him. Whatever we got to do, he's mine. We're married to each other. Every angle, every time you're making a decision about what happens to Mello, call me. I'm approving. I don't care. Like, I will put my name at risk. You can fire me the day he does something wrong. So they rehire him, and you watch this elongated 3-year story between me, Mello, Trigga all develop. And it was just my chance to prove him right, himself, give himself a chance to prove himself right. And for me, it was the first guy that I felt matched my energy. And I've never had this dream of going to the WWE and being in WrestleMania. Like, I just want to be recognized as one of the best wrestlers in the world. But Mello had that big dream. He wanted to go and do what he's doing right now. They were teaching him how to wrestle, but nobody was helping the kid. And he wasn't wrestling people who were teaching him. He was wrestling selfish people. And I like to think of myself as very selfless. So I did a selfless thing. I put my name on him, and we wrestled all over the world for 3 years straight. And I'm very happy to see where he's at now. But if that situation didn't get handled the way that it did, and I thank God every day, and I thank myself for having the balls to go up and say something. And I'm so happy to see him happy and flourishing, because what you're seeing now is what I saw in this little Michael Jackson copycat Thriller stupid fedora hat. I just knew he had it in him, and putting him with OG at that time was great. And then allowing them to wrestle me. And again, for me to be in a teaching position to give all this, like, I'm red hot on the indies. So I had all of this information coming in, and he was the perfect person to give it all to, and to OG at the same time, to be able to help him. So yeah, I mean, those guys all helped shape me. I mean, I'm not going to leave OG off the list, because he was the first person alongside Dave Cole to teach me anything. I think I've told this story like it's a broken record at this point, but obviously my journey with sobriety is very well documented. And OG and Dave Cole, when I was 21, turning 22 years old, first getting into wrestling on the pro level, they pulled me aside and had that conversation with me where it's like, hey man, I'm not sure if you know what's going on, but nobody likes you. We barely like you, but we see something in you where you could be great. But if you don't stop all of this other stuff, then you're not going to be great, and you're going to turn out a bum like all these other wasted potential talent that we've seen over the years. And that was the wake up call I needed, because one, I didn't know what I was doing was even right. I didn't know I was making progress. I was just doing it. But I also needed somebody to say, hey, like, the things that you're doing that you weren't taught, they're all wrong. You got to stop that. Stop your attitude. Stop thinking that anything you did in outside of wrestling life matters here, because it doesn't. Nobody cares how many touchdowns you scored. Nobody cares about anything like that. It's only the wrestling aspect. So I would credit OG and Dave Cole as the first people that led me to multiple people over the years. Then the hero, the milestone stuff all kind of goes together. Even just some of the matches that I had throughout those years were huge learning points for me. The Johnny Garganos, the Eddie Edwards, the Joey Janela's, like, they all showed me different aspects of wrestling. And I think that's what helped with this hybrid style I was trying to develop. I was able to really wrestle every type of person, and then go in there. And I think during your time of coming to shows, I really learned a lot, and I still continue to learn from Tommy Dreamer. And Dreamer was a huge influence because I was so anti ECW in character that naturally brought us together. I got to fight that guy. But man, what a fountain of information. Every time we were around each other, wrestled each other, it was way more than just the, hey, thanks for the match, brother. There's text, phone calls, future bookings he would provide me with just to get me around him so I could learn information, tryouts, all types of stuff. They all came at behest of him. And that's just like another, you do good things for good people and good things are going to happen to you. So I can't leave him off that list or he probably punched me in the neck.
So one of the things I want to talk about, one of the people Mello wrestled a few weeks ago was your matches with Cody Rhodes. But the one thing that stands out to me when I think creativity with you, I don't know if it was for the same match, but there's two things. The first thing was the promo you did. It was like quick as Stardust, where you just said, say my name. And then the trunks with like the Brandi. So like, I feel like we just don't see that like on like at the independent level nowadays, like going the extra mile, things like that. So like, what was your mindset in doing both things and the process from it all?
Oh man. So I remember, and this is real, when that list of wrestlers came out that he wanted to wrestle, and my name wasn't on that list. And there was people on that list where I'm like, I'm wrestling those guys every week on the biggest shows in the world. I'm the opponent for them. Why the hell wouldn't you want to, like, if you're this messiah to wrestling and you know how wrestling operates, you know my value, you know what I bring to the table, you know that those guys aren't just doing that themselves, their moves look cooler because I'm taking them, the selling on the moves is bigger because I'm taking them, the promotion is bigger because I'm doing the promos, they're not doing the promos, like I'm on social media like building and building. I was so offended by a person I had never met. So the opportunity came where I continued to voice not being on that list publicly, like and a lot of my opportunities in wrestling came because I'm just not going to be quiet. A lot of matches I earned because I just straight called somebody out, and I think that's a great way to do it. Like, how do you build interest in a match more than just being like, hey, I want to fight you? Like people like that. So with Cody, Pro Wrestling Magic approached me and they said, hey, we have the opportunity to bring Cody Rhodes in, and you're the only person to wrestle him. But it needs to be the best. It needs to be larger than life. It needs to be a culmination of your hard work here. And it needs to be exactly what he's looking for. Okay, not a problem. So I sat down and I just came up with a couple of ideas. And I like to think that when I'm presented with a big opportunity, I don't miss. It's got to be a grand slam. So I thought, okay, he didn't put me on the list. He's not talking about me. We're like other people are tweeting, other like big stars like Cody, why aren't you fighting JT? All just a promotional thing before I knew I was getting the match. And he wouldn't even respond to anything. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to get his attention. Here's what I'm going to do. Shout out OG. OG had a buddy who did design work. So I said, hey, I'm going to buy and have these trunks made to fit me. If I give them to your buddy, can he write Death by Brandi on them? And then can he airbrush her face on the back of my trunks? And I remember telling OG that, and he was kind of like, bro, are you sure that's okay? I was like, I don't give a fuck if it's okay. We're doing it. Like, I need something that says, watch this match. Like, now, how does he not show up to the building and want to just have the best match with me and beat me up? Mm-hmm. So I put them, we got them. I wore them the show before I wrestled him in Magic and to just promote. And then I felt like I needed something else. Just like there's just a little something missing. And obviously at this time, huge wrestling fan, all the details of Cody's career in my brain. And I linked with Frankie and actually Mike Ross is the one who painted my face. We went to Frankie's old studio and I said, yeah, you're going to paint me like Stardust. And I'm going to do this huge promo as me. And then I'm going to become Stardust. And then we're going to do the Stardust portion of it. And if that doesn't get a response from him, I quit because those are two like just bang bang things for me. Trunks will go online and then I'll have this promo in the vault ready to go to promote the match. Trunks go online, immediate response. Everybody starts going crazy because nobody took a shot at him like that. Like all the people that were on his list were like, "Oh, you left the WWE. I'm going to kick your ass." And I was just like, boring. Like,
Yeah.
I see that every week. Like, there's people getting released all the time and coming back from any major company in any major sport. They went up, they come down. That's how it works. So for me, I needed to up the ante. And I wasn't the first match he had. He went through a few of those people on the list, and they were high profile matches. They're great matches. I needed to be different. So the Trunks went online. That got a huge reaction from everybody. Now I had the attention I wanted. And now it was time to put the icing on the cake, and we dropped the Stardust promo. And I knew the Stardust promo hit when people that were in WWE started sharing the video. That was where I was like, okay, yep. And not all of them, like some of them I knew, some of them I had no clue that they knew who I was, but they were sharing it, tagging Cody, like, damn, good luck, bro. Because I was swinging for the fences, like win, lose, or draw. If this is my last chance to make the name of JT Dunn, the singles wrestler, synonymous amongst the greats, I was going for it. And I mean, we did it.
Yeah. And the one thing I think you might take a lot of pride in is the unit. Now, the one thing that you talked about, the term you gave, me and Trip kind of talked about it. You said, I don't know if you said it publicly, it's like a spider web, like different things going in different directions. So I know something small kind of started at what with Brad and Danny, I think it was, but like, what was your vision of the unit and like, and all these little pieces? And like, it's cool to see like how the unit, like there's like a different version like at Revolver compared to Chaotic and Fight Life. So what was your overall vision with the unit and like picking who decides to join?
So I think the what version of the unit was more, I want to hang around with my friends, and I'm in a position now to shine a light on guys that happen to be my friends, that I think are great. And it's the same thing I was already doing for people that, like, on camera they weren't my friends, but off camera they were my best friends. And I've always I felt like I've been around people who have been victimized by the person in the position of power, where just because they don't go to Applebee's with them after the show, they don't get the big matches, they don't get the opportunity, even though they may be the best wrestler or the most deserving. So when we did what, my functionality for everything was the people who earn it and the people who work the hardest reap the benefits of it. I don't care if I like them or not. So guys like Navarro, Mello, OG, Ken Broadway, Private Party, Bronson, Danny, Brad, like, they're hard workers and they needed an opportunity to wrestle people better than them. And nobody else was giving them that opportunity and the freedom to go do what they wanted to do. And like, hey, if it sucked, it's on me, whatever. I don't care. Like, you got to take a risk sometimes. But I think that freedom and opportunity and the chance to wrestle the best wrestlers in the world on a show that was guaranteed to be packed every time, I think we earned a lot of trust with each other. And they did stuff that I never asked them to do. And it allowed them to creatively grow in the ring, to grow, to find themselves who they want to be, and who they eventually grew into all happened on those shows or on shows with me. So with the unit, it was kind of like, all right, I'm already doing this off camera for these guys. Like, let's just put some guys with me, because being with me, now you get to wrestle the Dreamers, the Lance Storms, the Just Incredibles, the Moffs, like the Tremont, all that stuff. So that was kind of the vision for it, was like, I'm going to get a group, because I love groups. I thought factions in wrestling are just cool. And to have people who all do different things in that group. So no matter who we wrestle, our style blends with somebody. We're just a bunch of hybrids in a group, and we're going to go fight the world. Unfortunately, like, COVID came and shut everything down. And then post COVID, nobody really knew if wrestling was going to survive coming back out of the no fans era, and then if everything and what was going to work out. And then with the venue, they started doing things business a certain way, and we just didn't want to be associated with that. And it just felt like, it felt wrong to go do that show anywhere else. So we had our 2 years of a show. They were great. We made plenty of people better wrestlers and made me a better human and a better wrestler. So we were able to just dead it at that. And we were comfortable and happy. We still talk about it all the time. We're happy with the way it went. It was a joke that turned into a dream, that turned into providing people with opportunities and connections they never would have had if it wasn't for me, Rich, and Jerry at the beginning. But then in COVID, man, I really started reflecting. I was set to follow a tryout to go and sign. That was kind of like what my path was. I had my conversations and everything, my emails, my physical, everything was good. And then going into March, April of 2020, we found out that a bunch of people were getting cut, and they were just making way for this the training to shut down with NXT, and that the people that I had done the tryout with, we all got the same call. Hey, nobody's coming in. So it was kind of like a, goddamn, what do I do now? So being at home, locked in after years of probably being home 2 days a week, 3 days if I was lucky, that didn't go well for me. You were around for like the streaming portion of things. That was to keep my sanity. I needed to have that interaction. I craved just talking to people because I didn't have it. It was just me and D in the house every day, and that's a lot of stress on us and our relationship, my real life, my mental stability. I'd be lying if I didn't say there was times where my sobriety was in jeopardy. It was just very, very difficult for me. I didn't plan to be John again. It was very difficult for me to live that portion of my life, because the last 10 years going into there, or 9 years, had all been JT Dunn. So now it was like, oh, John's here. What do we do now? And I had no plan. So I remember talking to OG and Danny in confidence, kind of telling them like, hey, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. And them laughing at me, because to them, I've gone on and done a crazy amount of things. Like, why would I ever leave wrestling? And then I'm not sure how much they have shared publicly, but I mean, whatever. They're not going to get mad, I hope. They both told me that they weren't coming back. They were gonna stop wrestling, and they felt like opportunity had passed them, that people didn't understand how talented they were or could be. And it wasn't like an ego trip or anything like that, because they are that damn good. They just felt like, hey, there's 100 other people. I've got my real life in order now, or working on it. So why mess that up? So I kind of just sat down. I made a plan. I remember talking to D about it and just saying like, man, I really think it'd be cool if the three of us got together for 1 year, just like put 365 days on it, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever happens in those 3 years. I mean, those 365 days, that 1 year, that's it for us. But we go out together. I told them about it. I said, hey, man, like, here's a plan. It's like a 3-month plan. It could work. It could suck. Like, I have no clue. We haven't all really been on the same side. And like, me and OG as a team is weird, because we spent our whole life fighting each other. And then with Danny and I, it's just like, we're both so hard-headed and stubborn. Are we going to get along for a year? So they trusted in me. And even Chris right now, I still don't know why. I really don't know why they listened to me. But I explained to them the spiderweb effect is what I had built my career on. Is I'm the spider who built this massive web. And as I navigate through pro wrestling, I'm latching and catching every fucking person I pass in that web. Anybody who says that they're the best, anybody who says I suck, anybody who thinks that they're better than me, or I think I could have a great match with, or they're red hot right now, in some way, shape, or form, I'm catching them in my web. And there will never be an opportunity for anybody to ever tell me they don't have anything for me, because it's bullshit, because I've already set up 46 angles for you along the way. So the unit was the same thing. Now I just had more people to expand the web, and more people around the world that we could get way more caught in our web. So there's always going to be room to grow. And again, I bet on 1 year. That was 2021. It's 2024, and it's bigger now than it's ever been. And that still blows my mind. There's different factions of the unit. There's variations that have come across the years. If you were to tell me what if I was in that chaotic studio at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, day one, where we're about to film this promo of putting OG and Danny in the group. If you would have told me then that I'd be main eventing some of the biggest shows in the world, representing the unit with OG and Danny, or with any other variation of the members, whether it was like having Phil, Allie, Dango, like Infrared with me, excuse me, even having Chase, Ace, Verna, like we had so many different things that worked. And now Havoc and Jake Something being in the group, and Lish, like, man, that's crazy to me, because I felt like a used car salesman just pitching an idea like, hey, buy this 1995 Honda Civic, it might get you to work, I don't know. But realistically, it was the spiderweb effect. And then I knew just how I am. I crave the spotlight, because I feel like I help shine that light on other people with me. And having this group with people who I liked, who I think are so damn talented, and maybe wrestling doesn't appreciate them for the value that they bring, I'll put them on my left and my right. Like, nobody stood behind me. They all stood on the side of me. And that was very important for me, that we're all side by side in this thing. I was only the leader because people made me the leader. Not all the ideas are mine. Not all the concepts are mine. Not all the matches have my stamp of approval or credit on them. Like, those are my friends. They're creative. They're great wrestlers. They're stars. Let them have an opportunity. It's just me, who I know is constantly going to go to bat, and we're going to get the damn matches that we want. We're going to wrestle the best wrestlers in the world, because I want that. I want that for me. I want that for them. And we've had that. But man, it was such a small idea that became an international thing. It's wild to me.
And then, like, one of the things with that, I mean, you did it with Chris here. It sort of like introduced you kind of back to tag team wrestling in sort of a way. So with that, like, I don't know if you have a preference of what style wrestling, but like, what have you learned from both singles wrestling compared to tag team? And like, what do you love about each of them?
Singles wrestling, I enjoy for the fact that I can stunt my ego a little bit more. That's just me. You know what I mean? So I hold myself accountable. So if something goes wrong, I don't have that that hard out of like, oh, it's this guy's fault. He messed it up. So it forces you to be great. Like, especially if you're wrestling the best wrestlers. 9 out of 10 times you're gonna have a great match, but if something does go wrong, you have to have accountability, either myself or my opponent. We gotta, hey, something went wrong, let's talk it out. Tag team wrestling is my heart and soul. It's my favorite thing in the world. I was able to make a name for myself early on with singles wrestling, but that led me to a whole different world of tag team wrestling. And when I had that first tag team and we did the Juicy Product stuff, that was like elementary school, middle school. You go, you learn, you make mistakes, teacher slaps her hand, don't do that again. Okay. Then I went and did the teaming with Hero. We did Death by Elbow. That was college. That was a university degree of how to be the damn best. It was like, you got high school blending into college. This is it. This is where you figure out who you're going to be in life at that portion. So high school, college, you get your degree. I got that stamp of approval from him. Like, I say pretty often, but like, he could have chosen any person in the world. Any person in the world. I didn't do anything different. I just wrestled. He chose me. So I took that, and it just happened to be my favorite wrestler. So it's crazy how life works out. He chose me. I chose to go to that high school. I chose to take those college classes. I passed. Now, post-college is the unit. For that, it's like, now go and apply every single thing that you've ever learned about wrestling, singles wrestling, tag team wrestling, group wrestling, branding, marketing, everything. Put your heart and soul into this. It's crazy to think that Death by Elbow was like, I thought was going to be the most profitable monetary time of my life, where money was important. The unit has superseded that in the same time frame, 3 years and 3 years. We've done more marketing and branding and made more profit off of unit merchandise, unit bookings, and opportunities than I ever did with Death by Elbow.
Wow.
So what that has showed me is I learned what I needed to in my middle school and elementary tag team. I learned what I needed to in high school and college in my tag team. And I've directly applied it now to my post educational life, where I'm teaching, I'm exploring, and I'm putting my degree to work. And the unit has been incredible. Quick little story. I remember we first printed the unit t-shirts, and I've been on the boys like, yo, we got to get I got the logo made. We got to make the merch. We got to make the merch. We got to make the merch. Like, screw the show money. Screw it. It's nothing compared to the money that we can make if we brand ourselves. So I remember we pumped out the first t-shirts, the stickers, and the 8x10s. We went to our first show. I went out there and I sold the merch, and we did the splitsies. So like, which is common in a group. Everybody puts money in. We split the cost. We get it. I came to the locker room. They were sitting down. I threw all the money on the table, like on purpose to be a piece of shit. I threw like $2,000 on the table, and I just was like, I remember Danny going, "Is that ours?" I said, "Yeah, that's unit money right there." And we split everything right there. They made all of the money back that they invested. I made all my money back on the investing. I made all the money back that it cost to brand it, to pay for the graphic design work, to pay for everything to be like, we did everything in one show. I told them, like, boys, this is the real part of wrestling. Like, yeah, we're bad guys, but like, you have a brand that people want to believe and invest in because of the stories that we're telling. This is going to be every single weekend for us. And it continued to be, it still is like that. It's wild to me.
So one of the things you talked about, which I'm pumped to talk about, what wrestling.
Okay.
But you end up saying, I watched it back a few days ago. You said a quote to Casey after the match, and I forgot the exact wordage. It was like, "What wrestling crawled so Fight Life can run," or something like that.
Yeah.
So starting what, like, I know you mentioned it was like some of the guys you wanted to like shine on, like Casey, Bronson, Private Party, to transition into Fight Life. What was your vision for both of them, and like, what was the process? Because like, I mean, anybody could say they want to start a wrestling company, but to have the success, like you said, like, I remember almost every What show. I think you were a part of every What show, I want to say, and I think you've been a part of every Fight Life one so far. So like, what was your process with it all and like the journey to them?
I don't like missing shows at all. If I feel like I'm invested, I don't want to miss a show. So with What, I actually tore my hamstring 4 months before the debut show. We already knew it was happening. I think we had, if it wasn't, it might have been a week's difference in time before the announcing of the show happening in January of that year, the next year, and my hamstring tearing. And being the Providence guy in the Providence building, the name value that I had was the attachment to all the guys that we were booking. Like, there were just people I had to reach out and contact. So me not wrestling or being there, like, we were nervous. I have never tried harder in my life than I did when I tore my hamstring to rehab. I was in PT every day. I ended up, thankfully, finding a therapist close to my house at that time who actually worked for the Chicago White Sox, and he helped me rehab with no surgery. And thankfully, like, my hamstring tore like in the middle, like a bubble, as opposed to like a rip on the side or any kind of disconnection. So we just really needed it to just go back like this. So he trained me in doing that, and I got cleared. Like, man, I think my promo to fight Dreamer came like 5 days before the show. It was really, really close. We had a replacement just in case, but 5 days before the show, we announced it's me and Dreamer. But with the What shows, that was as much as it was an opportunity to for me to stunt and show, hey, this is all the stuff I've learned in wrestling. We're going to do everything right. I'm going to treat the talent right. I'm going to give them freedom. I'm going to give them creative control. I'm going to do all of the things I wish other companies did, but they don't have the balls to do it. We weren't scared of losing money. Like, we knew the risk of what it was going to take to be successful. And we checked our egos at the door. Like, yeah, it was JT Dunn's name on the company with Rich. But like, JT Dunn wasn't running the show. Like, that's not a real person. Me as a human was running the show and talking to these talents and bringing them in and offering them opportunity, and telling them like, hey, like, I was straightforward with everybody. I have no clue what's going to happen. I have no clue what the storyline's going to be. I don't know what you're doing next show because we got to do this show. Like Casey's the prime example of me calling him and being like, hey man, I have an opportunity. I promised you 2 years ago that could happen. You're doing great now. Doesn't pay a lot right now. It's a pre-show gig. Like, I'm literally at the bottom of the barrel, scratching and clawing to get you in here. Like, nobody else knows you, so it's difficult to get you in here. Just come get over. Can you do that for me? Like, same thing I said about Mello. Like, I know you're great. Just trust me. He didn't have to. He didn't have to listen. Same thing with the House of Glory guys, Private Party, Kent Broadway, bringing in Bronson and Beefcake. Like, bro, they didn't have to trust me. They didn't have to listen to me. Like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't have a magical crystal ball that was showing me profit at the end or all of these guys getting signed. I was just like, hey, if I bring people that I met here, and here, and I bring them all together, and then this guy wrestles this guy and this, like, bro, putting the shows together was crazy for me because it was like I was the last person to get a match most of the time, because I wanted everybody else to eat. But at the same time, I wasn't just teaching wrestlers. There was plenty of other people that were involved backstage. Frankie, for example, where I was allowing him creative control over the editing, how he wanted to set the venue up, where the camera should go, how he wanted to film, getting a crew, and having his own crew. Like nobody really does that at that time. So like he had his own crew of camera people and interviewers backstage, and people taking pictures, setting up commentary. Like I didn't want anything to do with that because it's not my wheelhouse. It's not my expertise. I know when I see it at the end, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, he's my boy. We can have that conversation. Change this, change that. So I think giving him that freedom, and I would also go to him for like creative input. Like, hey man, you love wrestling. What we're doing right now, do you love watching what we're doing? Like, and be real with me. I had plenty of people like that around me, and it kept me humble. It kept me in check. I think it made sure that every show, like there was never a match. This is like a real big thing for me, and what I never wanted anybody to look at our show match by match and go, I don't know about that match. I don't know if that match is going to be good, because the pieces in it, they just don't make sense. So I think I know talent. I know what these people are capable of. Like, we'll use OG. Why would I put OG in a match with somebody who their styles don't mesh? They don't complement each other. Maybe their personalities are too similar or opposite, where it's a bad situation. We didn't have anything like that on any of the shows. And I think all of the matches, like I would put all of those matches against any other top company in the world, like literally top to bottom, show v show. I don't think you're beating us. Yeah, I mean, damn, that sounds very egotistical, but I really don't think they're beating us. There was a lot of care, a lot of emotion that went into that stuff. You got to see it with a lot of the wrestlers, like, and like, how am I going wrong when in the backstage I have Tommy Dreamer, PCO, Dan Moff, Just Incredible, Lance Storm, Tennille. They're all aging matches. I didn't ask them to do that. They loved wrestling so much. They're in the back helping people. They're in the back putting matches together that aren't their own matches. They're in gorilla position where we had the monitor, because I had to change there because I'm like running the show, changing, calling a match, going out, doing it, coming back. These other people saw what I was willing to do and they stepped up. So it's like, not only is this a product of my ideas, but it's the product of amazing people working with these younger talents, helping them be better because they see what it is we're trying to build here. All of the names that came in, they didn't just sit in the private room upstairs by themselves and wait for their match and talk to their opponent and then come down, then go home. Bro, that gorilla position was locked. Like we had 20 people in there at all times. people would film a promo in front of the screen. If it wasn't good, somebody would jump up and be like, hey, but what if you did it this way? Like, we had everybody there. Sammy, Ethan, Keith Lee, Martin Stone, like guys that were on top of the world of wrestling at that time, or were in the back helping everybody. And it was just so cool to just have an idea and watch it come to fruition. And then again, without the fans in Providence, the fans that drove to come be a part of that, it doesn't happen. They believed in my vision. They believed in the vision of what, and Rich and Frank, like we tried really hard. And then transitioning into Fight Life, I think a lot of people hold me, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, I'm not as involved in Fight Life as people may think. I'm just there. I'm a talent. I'm a friend. I do try to run the locker room to take that away from Frank so he doesn't have to worry about it, because running a show is difficult. The creative, the venues, the production, the ring, like anything that has to go with the show, that's all him, bro. I don't do any of that. My name is what it is. I go and wrestle, and if getting talent is needed and they need to know who's on the show, he knows, hey, tell him JT's there. That person will call me and be like, hey, I'm talking to this guy. Is he actually your friend? Is the show worth doing? Yes, it is. And then we get them in there. But he's doing the hard work. He's doing the emails, the negotiations, the bartering of monies, the flights, like the hotels, the transport, like that part sucks. Like that's the worst. The worst part of running a show is that part, because everybody thinks they're more valuable than they are. And realistically, when you're dealing with talent that aren't super mega names, it's, hey, my ticket price is this. If I pay you this, are you selling this many tickets to a lot to that value? That's the most simplistic way you can break it down. So when I'm talking to guys and they come to me in the locker room and they're like, hey man, I want to talk to you about this and money or whatever. And I'm just like, all right, bro, like I can go and talk to him for you. That's fine. But this is the breakdown for it. Do you see yourself making this much money? And then on top of it, I know what I make. And it's like, are you more valuable than me here? Are you a better wrestler than me? Are you selling more tickets? Like, was your travel more extensive than mine or anything like that? Or even the next person in line, if I take myself out of it, like, hey, bro, we're here because we love wrestling. One of the things that I just talked about this weekend, since we're talking about money, and I say this in reference to Fight Life, but goes to any show. As pro wrestlers, and this is something that Hero told me. I remember specifically, we were at a Cracker Barrel driving to Syracuse, New York to do a show. Him and I were traveling. It was our first car trip together. I remember sitting there and we were talking about wrestling, and then pay structure came up. Like, well, how do you develop what your value is? How do I put a stamp on that? He goes, wrestling, we do that for free. We wrestle for free. The money that you get paid for doing the show should never be in reference to what you do in the ring, because nobody is telling you to go out there and do anything that you're already not willing to go and do. And if you're not willing to go and do it, then you're not going to do it. What we're paid for as professionals is the branding of our name, the inconvenience of travel, whether it's a 10-hour drive, a 4-hour flight, the aches and pains that our body's going to go through in that travel, or if we have to go to the venue and sit around all day. Are we going to have transportation? Am I driving myself? Are you having a car drive me? Are you picking me up? Am I going to get to eat? Am I going to get to go to the gym? Am I going to sit in an airport all day and have to spend all my money? That's where the bartering comes in. So when we deal with people, and I still deal with this, because I do have my hands in so many different companies around the world where I help people out. And it's just like, they come to me like, I want to wrestle here. I want $1,000. Like, what? Like, bro, you're barely booked on shows. What do you mean you want $1,000? Well, I got to drive 4 hours. Like, what? Bro, we're talking about maybe $100 in gas. Like, let's sit down and talk about this. So I think that's always like a great way to look at it. Are you selling tickets? Are you that valuable? Or are you just like, oh, I wrestle on these cool shows, and I promise you, they're not paying you what you're asking ever. Just not how everybody's a brother rate, until you have that WWF logo on the bottom of your 8x10. But it really is like, I want you to make your money, but be smart about it, because one missed opportunity leads to one person having a negative thing to say about you. And now 3 more opportunities down the line are gone because you bartered the wrong way. Take an opportunity, make the maximum amount of money that you possibly can. And we had talked about this with the unit stuff, the merchandise and branding. If you're this big of a wrestler in your brain and you think I'm this guy, I'm worth $1,000. Well, okay, wrestle for 500, make 500 plus in merch, and now you're $1,000 wrestler. But especially on the first time you come through a territory or an area or a show, like prove it, unless like, again, unless you have that name value where you're a rock star, like you're the Matt Cardonas, where you're going to sell a building out, your name is everything. Barter, like do yourself, and especially if you're in a tag team. I watch a lot of guys do that a lot. Like one guy does a negotiations, but they both lose because the guy doing it can't put his ego aside, and it ruins opportunity, man.
So one thing you said, to go back to what I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you had your fingerprints on, but one of the things I think that what was known for was the scrambles. Did you have like a vision with that? Like, what was the inspiration? Like, how did that start?
So it started as a mockery, because on the indies, if they can't find anything for you, they throw you in a scramble match. Yep. So for me, it was like, oh, okay, we're doing everything the right way. Scrambles got to be included. One, it's a great way for me to get people on a show where I can say, hey, show out, next show you're in a match. And every winner of our scramble, with the exception, I think, of one, somebody won and then went back to the scramble the next time, but that was part of the storyline. But every scramble winner went on to have bigger matches afterwards. You earn it.
Yeah.
But scramble matches on a lot of indie shows suck. It's just a bunch of talent that have no place being in the ring together, because it's just a land of misfit toys. You're just throwing like, oh, this guy brought his boy. Oh shit, I forgot I promised this guy a match. These guys over here, this guy's opponent didn't show up. Let's put him on the match. There was no thought process into everything. I would say probably every single show, the scramble was the first booked match on the show.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I went out of my way to put people in there who I knew their styles would complement each other, or there was somebody or some people in that match specifically that would draw something out of somebody. I want to see what you can do. And as a test, like in the locker room, are you going to fight for yourself? Are you going to fight for your spots? Are you going to fight for your opportunity? If we put this name in here, like a Homicide, are you going to do what you can do to get spots with Homicide? Are you going to earn his respect? Like, that's my boy. Is he going to come back and be like, yo, this guy right here, he was the hardest working guy in the scramble? Everything is a test. And like, I can't be in every match, so I can't test everybody myself. I can't see if they're worth being on all of my shows. So all of those matches with high profile talent, and they're wrestling somebody either younger, less experienced, or one of my guys, it was always a test. And like, we use Casey Navarro. He was the ultimate test taker. That was the guy from literally match 1 to match 11. He was being tested the whole entire journey through to see if he could pass. And I wanted him to wrestle every single person I knew who was going to be honest with me. And they were going to come back and be like, hey, you're investing in the right person. This kid, whatever it is, he has it, and you need to keep going with him. But I had tons of people like that. All those scramble matches, bro, they were like, it was like my interpretation of the ECW 3-way.
Okay. Yeah.
So in ECW, they were notorious for the 3-way. That was like the no rules. These guys go out here, do all your shit, and it's going to be so different than everything else on the show. So again, me being anti ECW as I was, what wrestling was ECW? It was literally a carbon copy of what ECW did, because it's the original indie wrestling. I took that formula. I took the guy who was the face of ECW. I put him in my promotion, and we sat down and talked ideas like, hey, what do you think would work? Watching this show back, what's working? What's going great? What's bad? Like, let me change it. And the scramble was something we needed to stick with it. I remember telling him like, hey, this is just a ripoff of what you did, bro. Like, this is not you, but you were a part of it. And you had the influence to make it great. Do that here for me. Help me. Help these guys. That's what your purpose is. Like, wrestling me should be a piece of cake for you. We can go on last. We don't got to talk. We can go out there. I love you. You trust me. It's great. Let's go do it. Let's focus on the rest of the show. Let's make these guys great while we make ourselves great. But the scramble match, I love those scramble matches. They were insane.
I remember those. And then one thing you started to mention, which I thought, did you start streaming before the pandemic a little bit? Or did you
Ooh,
like really focus on it?
it definitely was a hyper focus during lockdown.
So like what was your mindset? And like did you imagine you having like I don't know what they are, like you're an ambassador now for like Bucked Up, W Energy. Like, did you ever imagine this?
Um, Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of been a goal for me. So in my life, wrestling and gaming have saved my life. Those would be the two things I would credit me still being here to. Um, for the reason where wrestling gave me something to focus on, to be great at, and to follow a dream and a passion post football and into my adult life. And then with gaming was legitimately the reason I was able to get sober. I tried AA, I tried meetings, I tried having a sponsor. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't find a purpose through other people. It just, my brain couldn't compute. And I tell this story frequently when we talk about sobriety. Going to AA meetings was tough for me because in my adult life, I'm very emotionally detached from everything. My life has made me that way. I'm way better now at having control of my emotions and being emotionally invested in things. But at that time, didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to sit in a room. I didn't want to listen to other people's stories. I didn't give a shit what was happening to you because I'm dying over here. I'm literally dying, and listening to you sell your body for crack, like, like to me,
Yeah.
it was like, just stop.
Yeah.
Like, just don't do that. But on the other side, that same advice worked for me. Like, just stop. Like, just stop doing those bad things and good things will happen. So when I decided to get sober, I lived right outside of Boston at the time. So I locked myself in my house with my roommate. Well, I didn't lock him in. He was able to leave. But I declined all my bookings. I cut off social media, even though it wasn't big at the time for me anyway. So that was easy. But I went 75 days because 60 days is the time period where your body stops craving and wanting once you've deprived it enough. And if you get through the 60 days, you're usually on the other side, and you can find clarity. I went 75 just so I had like the punctuation of those extra 2 weeks of just like, okay, I'm in the place I need to be. That was the worst time of my life. It was very hard for me. I went through withdrawal. I was very, very sick. I lost a lot of weight. My hair started falling out. Like, it was bad. But video games were literally what I did from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. I played video games all day. I would just I would have Redbox video games because they were in Redbox at the time. I'd buy video games on eBay. I was playing Madden, Call of Duty. Fortnite wasn't even out yet, but whatever I could get my hands on, I was playing. I must have beat the same game 100 times, like just going through the motions of just finding sanity in this wild time. But yeah, man, wrestling, video games are the things that saved my life. And I would say now, my life with Deanna is what keeps my life together. It Those two things set my life up to find purpose, and her, that's my purpose. My family, that's my purpose. Everything, every decision I make now, I think I make it with a clear, open mind. I'm not making it for monetary gain. I'm not making it for the betterment of myself for the most part. My sacrifices are different. My priorities are different. I'm willing to stay home instead of taking a booking to be with her and stream because I can make the same amount of money. But yeah, man, the streaming thing really took off in the pandemic. But again, even doing that, like if it wasn't for D supporting me, sometimes just playing the games with me, it probably doesn't take off the way that it did. It was a great way for me to connect with people like you and my friends, and have like my famous friends come on and play video games with us. It helped me pay bills. I didn't think it was going to go into anything like it has now.
Mhm.
But once I saw that and I reflected and I took that time away from it, went back to wrestling full time, grew a bigger brand, a bigger fan base, people kept asking me about the video games, and people would come up to me and be like, hey, we know that time was tough for you, but your video games and the stories and the hours you would spend playing, allowing us to watch and answer questions, that helped us through that time as well. And that's where it hit me like, wow, there's people I was able to connect with that I'm not going to be able to see through wrestling. But if they're at home in a different country and they just turn on my stream and they watch, like, we're connected. I can have that bond with them again. And who knows, I could be a bright spot in somebody's day. I can build my brand and I can get into the competitive gaming and content creation that I've wanted to get into. You know, probably better than most. I'm very competitive, bro. I take video gaming very seriously. So being able to do that and go and search out to find a video game home, that was a big goal for the end of 2023.
Yeah, I remember during the pandemic, I would sit there for like 3-4 hours a day being like your moderator before like a bot was even out, like plugging your stuff and all that. But to go with that, like to know where you are now with gaming, like what was your mindset selecting Merc, or how did that thing start? Because it's crazy to see like the support you get on Twitter, the way they advertise your matches, hype you up in your streams. Like, what was the thought process behind joining them?
Yeah, so that's pretty difficult.
Mm.
I had told all you guys that in our gaming sessions that I was looking for a home. I was looking for a place that I could go and just be me. Like, I didn't want to be JT Dunn. Like, there's some days I really don't want to be him. It comes with a lot of there's a lot of responsibility, and at times it's cool to just be a human and play video games and live stress free. And I interviewed with a lot of different companies that or esports organizations, and I sent my resume in. We had meetings on Zoom, Google Meets, Discord, whatever. And a lot of people are bad people, Chris, and they really were just trying to take my brand and manipulate it and help themselves before helping me. And that's not really what I was looking for. I wanted something that was 50-50. I wanted something where I felt comfortable. I wanted something where like, esports is new to me. I don't know anything about that world. I know wrestling and I know business now because of my other career. So it's like, with esports, I needed somebody to hold my hand and walk me through this world and show me where I got to go, how to act, how not to act. Like early on in my wrestling career, I never had that person. I wasn't trying to replicate that mistake in gaming because it's very similar. It's very similar to wrestling. It's a business. It's growth. It's, you have to develop a brand. You have to be good, do good, train, and do all this stuff to get to the top. Thankfully, I've been playing long enough to where I'm pretty good at certain games where I can skip a few steps. My brand itself helps me skip a few steps. But if I get to that point where I'm skipping steps, I better be everything as advertised when I get there. So actually, it was the third to last team and group I interviewed with was Merc. And with Merc, I think I told Dakota and Donald like 30 seconds into the conversation, like, yeah, this is
Wow.
this is it. There was no hesitation. Everything they were saying was what I wanted to hear. I didn't know what I wanted to hear, to be clear.
Mhm.
But when they started saying it, I was like, damn, this is me. The way they act is the way I like to act. The way they're treating people is the way I like to treat people. This is a fresh start for me to be around positive people in a positive atmosphere where growth is the goal for both of us. They want to grow their brand. They want to grow Merc Gaming into a community where all like-minded individuals can make everlasting memories. We want to be a part of that. So then I remember they sent me the contract, and like, I have the multiple monitors set up in my gaming room. I had it pulled up on one of my screens over here, and I just stared at it for like hours, bro. Like,
Mhm.
it's so crazy that this is a real thing. And then I remember I called Dee in the room, and I've been telling her like, oh, these interviews suck. These people were just trying to like get money out of me or whatever. And some people were offering me crazy money to sign,
Mhm.
like stupid money to play video games, which is so dumb to me. But they just wanted my brand,
Mhm.
and I wasn't comfortable with that. With Merc, we made our arrangements. They sent the contract over. I called Dean. We looked at it. I kind of scrolled through and let her read through like the code of conduct and just the way they want people to act and what they're asking of me. And she just kind of looked at me, and she didn't have to say any words, but just the look, I knew like, okay, like she knows too that this is the right thing. So I signed it and sent it over, and became official.
Wow. And so to go back to wrestling, I think you posted on Wednesday, Jimmy Lloyd, was that a first time ever?
First time ever.
So like
we actually first time ever one-on-one. The first time we ever wrestled was at what? It was a 6-man tag.
Wow.
Me, Danny, and Jimmy Preston versus Tommy Dreamer, Jimmy Lloyd, and Dan Moff.
Wow. So like I think you might have posted, or it might have been a Fight Life, like it's hard to say in New England a first time ever.
Yes.
So like, especially after all these years in your career, is there anyone yet that you want to face that you haven't had the chance to share the ring? Or is there anything left in wrestling that you really want to accomplish?
Kenny Omega. I think that's the last match for me to solidify myself as one of the best to ever do this at our level. Again, I don't need the WWE. I don't need AEW, TNA, any of that stuff. That doesn't complete me. The respect of the best wrestlers in the world, sharing their stories, and when they do, they include my name. That's what I want. The guys that motivated me were the best wrestlers on the independents. And I wanted to emulate that. I wanted to be like them. And Kenny is that guy. And I think being able to, we were close before, we were very close to a match getting set up. But I think that's the last, like the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
I've collected them all. Yeah. I got everybody. I mean, I can't honestly think of somebody I haven't wrestled in some way, shape, or form that is worth it. And that excludes people I don't know. So, I mean, there could be guys who watch this that are like, what about me? Like, bro, my bad. But out of the best wrestlers in the world, you build your top 10 however you want of the best independent wrestlers in the last, say, 10 years, 15 years. I've wrestled them all, except for Kenny. So Kenny would be that guy. And I think...
You said at Fight Life Cardona.
Yeah, I'll whoop his ass.
Oh, okay.
We're talking apples and oranges in that conversation. Matt's great. I think he's wonderful. There's tons I would learn from him. There was tons I think he would learn from me. I think he would learn about me in the same aspect. I would love for him to come to Fight Life and wrestle me. But with Kenny, I'm talking strictly put all your cards on the table. You work the hardest match you've ever worked in your entire life and prove it. And that's the match I need to do that in. In regards to wrestling as a whole, I'm not done until I feel like there's nobody left to wrestle in general. Until I feel like there's not anybody else running around saying they're the best without proving it. And now at this point in my adult life, I need to wrestle to the point where Deanna and I's son sees me wrestle with his own eyes and can comprehend what he's watching. I think that's super cool for the aspect of development, and for me to be able to share with him, you could do whatever you want. Here's proof. I've done whatever I wanted to accomplish in my life, and I did it long enough that you got here. You got to see it one of the last times. And as long as I don't lose touch with myself and I don't stop caring about the way I look, wrestle, present myself, I don't want to become this sloppy, bitter guy. And I'm still young. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still young. This will be my 13th year. I actually just talked to guys at Hog, like Amazing Red and Brian and stuff, like, and Mustafa, like, bro, they think I've been wrestling for 25 years. Like, I'm only 34.
Wow.
Like, there's guys just catching their break right now. I just happen to stay persistent and stay healthy and smart. like I said, this more than anything else is this. Like, yeah, I take dumb falls and dumb bumps and do dumb shit every once in a while, but whatever you see me do, man, I have meticulously calculated every single aspect of how that could go to where I said, yes, I'll do it. But until I don't have that like passion is too simple of a word, but there's a feeling inside of you when you're getting ready to perform. It's not nerves, it's like angst. You just want to go out there and be the best. If I lose that, then I'm done. If I stop caring, then I'm done. If I stop finding people that I think I can make better, I'm done at that point. I'm hoping those things never happen. I'm hoping I get to be a rarity of a person who can accomplish everything that's left, get to leave the way I want to leave, and just be happy, be healthy. My brain's okay, my body's okay, my family's okay, my friends are okay. And every single promotion that I've been to up to that point, I've left it better than when I found it, and it's ready for the next person to take over. I wouldn't want to just abandon a place. I want to make sure that it's primed and ready to go. Because when I go, I'm gone. There's no, hey, come out of retirement. Like, I'm not doing that like everybody else. I'm not having my retirement tour 4 times. It's just not happening. We've watched that happen in New England every year, it seems. When I'm done, I'm done. But if I'm being honest, I got a couple of more years where I'm going to be great.
So I end every interview the same, and it kind of relates with this. The day after all these years, you decide to finally hang up the boots and call it a career. What do you want JT Dunn's legacy to be remembered for? What do you want people to remember you for in wrestling?
I want them to remember JT Dunn as the hardest worker in the room, the most selfless wrestler they've ever wrestled. And he's the best. Like, I just want them to say those words. Like, damn, JT, yeah, he's the best. Doesn't matter about money. Doesn't matter about pay-per-views. Doesn't matter about getting my Triple H picture. It just matters about being respected. This entire sport is built on respect. And when you lose that train of thought, you lose everything. And I've never lost that. I'm fighting for the cliche handshakes at the end of the match, because with me, they mean something. It means, yeah, I'd wrestle you again. I appreciate what we just did. You are as good as you say you are. If I don't shake your hand either in the ring or in the back, yeah, bro, you did something real bad. Or you were this loud and the wrestling was subpar. But I want people to remember me as the best. And that's not an egotistical way. It's just like, hey, I worked my ass off. I helped everybody I could. I helped them all be better. And that made me better. So, yeah, I want to go down with independent greats.
Well, JT, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you being one of the first episodes. I appreciate everything over the years you've done for me. And I'm excited to see what these next few years hold for you. So thank you, man, for doing this.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for chatting me up and not asking me who my favorite wrestler was.
I was debating doing it, but I held off for this
one. The Macho Man Randy Savage.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for watching episode 5 of the Character to Canvas podcast. I appreciate you all tuning in. Peace.